5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. Kamar Alahmad and Zina Bankasli.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining me here today on episode 5.0 of the Lucas Weaver Show. I can't believe it's already episode 5.0. It because you saw the one you got name checked and shouted out in the episode 1.
Yes. With Christine.
Yeah, with Christina. And man, that was like, feels like forever ago and then yet not that long ago at the same time. But what was forever ago is when we met, which was what, like 5 years ago?
I think maybe even more, like 6 years ago, I guess. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And so you were studying to take the IELTS exam.
Yeah.
And you had just moved here, right?
Yeah.
And then you wanted to go do your bachelor at the time.
Yes, that's right. And because it's an English taught program, I had to do an English exam. That's why I took the classes.
Make sure you keep that. There you go.
Like this?
Yeah. You're going to want to look at me, but then this has to be in front of you or else it'll be like, So I already learned a lesson from the last episode because I had it like directly in front of Mert. And so then he would be looking at me to talk, but the mic would be over here. So now this time I'm like trying to learn a little bit every time and hopefully get them better and better each time. But yeah. Cool. So you were doing an English taught bachelor's and that's why you had to do the IELTS exam. And so why don't we just start with how the two of you guys met and, basically what your relationship is.
Well, I guess we both are studying in Rotterdam University of Applied Sciences. And we both do different studies or programs. But Zina was working in Rotterdam University as a peer coach, like a buddy for students who have, for newcomer students. And I was there new as well. So we were helping each other with trying to integrate in that place to get to know the new educational system in the Netherlands. And from that moment, we have started meeting each other in the library.
Yeah.
And after that, we starting studying together, studying sessions, those kind of things. And from that moment, we become friends.
Yeah.
So what year did you guys come here?
When?
What year? Yeah.
What year? I came in 2014.
Okay.
And I in the end of 2015.
2015. Okay. And so just to give people the context, you both came here from Syria as refugees. Did you kind of have to make a long journey to get here? How was that whole process of coming from Syria?
For me, it was not that difficult because my father managed to get a visa to Greece. So it was easy for us to just take the airplane and come here. But of course, this is not the case. I'm one of the few lucky ones who managed to come here, in a safe journey, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's totally different. I was first in Egypt. So I stayed there for 3 years. And after that, my father came to here first by boat as other refugees. And then I came here with my family to the Netherlands. But we have waited in Egypt for 1.5 years in order to come to here. And I think it is really different from a refugee to another. Everyone has its own story, let's say. So yeah.
Yeah, I was fascinated by that when I first started, teaching English here because there were at that time, I think I moved here in 2016, something like that. And at that time, there were just so many, Syrian refugees here. And a lot of them were taking English courses, of course, a lot of them taking Dutch courses. And man, the stories that I heard, were just no two were the same. I remember one guy, he told me how he kind of had to try multiple times to cross from Turkey he ended up in Austria. And then in Austria, it was like he was trying to get to, I forget where he was trying to get to, but he had a brother, I think, living in Switzerland. And so he was like trying to make his way to Switzerland and he couldn't get there. And so then he stopped in the Netherlands and then eventually got, accepted as a refugee here. But it's just kind of like, it's weird in a way to think about all these people who live now across Europe and have totally kind of integrated into those cultures, but they didn't really have a choice. It wasn't like many of them had a goal. It's like, oh, I want to be Swedish,
Definitely. Yeah.
Sweden was where they ended up and then they kind of made their life. So let's go, I guess, like one step, further back to the very beginning. So let's talk about, your lives in Syria before the civil war broke out, because I think, what I would love to kind of accomplish with this episode is to give people like the full context from your point of view of, from beginning to now and kind of just like all the different, parts of that discussion. So let's start with what year did the civil war break out in Syria? 2010. So let's go back to say like 2009. You're both living in Syria at that time. What was life like before, kind of all hell broke loose?
So for me personally, I did not live in Syria at that time because my father used to travel a lot because of his work. So at that time, we were already outside Syria. But at a certain moment, his residence permit was ended and he had to leave the country and go back to Syria. And at that moment, we decided to take the risk and go to Europe because going back to Syria was not an option. This was in 2014. So the war was already started. So we decided to, instead of going back to Syria, to take this decision and come to the Netherlands. But even when I did not live in Syria, I used to go there every summer, like on vacation, to see my family and have some nice time with them. So I was a kid at that time because the moment I arrived to the Netherlands, I was only 17. So before that, I was younger, of course. So I did not have that consciousness about like the political situation, democracy. What does that mean, or whatever? Because they like the community there, when it comes to political views and political opinions, they are very concerned and they are very conservative. Let's say they do not speak openly because they cannot do that. Because the moment you speak openly and you know that. Or like your opinion is against the government, that your future won't be as bright as you would wish because you would end up in the jail. So even my parents did not really educate me on that, so that I don't get like filled with these views and then I speak up one day because they would be worried about me. So I did not really understand like what dictatorship was, what democracy was. I did not really had a view about that. The only thing I knew is that I loved going there on vacation. I loved seeing my family there. It was enjoyable there. So you would like spend all the months studying or like working in the country where you live, and then you look forward to the summer because you want to enjoy the moment there. So I did not really know a lot about like politics, let's say, generally at that time. But it was, as I told you, it was the moment that you would look forward to after like months of studying or working or whatever. So it was really enjoyable. It was really nice to see everyone there because we also have a lot of family members who were also outside Syria. So it's like everyone going there to meet each other and everyone misses each one, the rest of the family. So it was really, really nice to be there.
And how is it now because you talked about like you didn't really understand that it was a dictatorship. I mean, you obviously knew that, but you didn't really understand what that meant. Mm-hmm. And how does it, obviously you're much older now. And like you said, the consciousness is different and things like that. But how is it now living in a place like the Netherlands where, I think it's one of the best democracies in the world. You have like 30 something political parties or something like that. How does it feel now, like kind of experiencing this and then comparing that to not just how it was when you lived, but also you still know people living under governments like that, I'm sure. So how does it compare?
So now it feels like you appreciate this freedom much more because you missed that before. So maybe I can say that I might be appreciating this more than people who were born already in a free country, because this was missing in my country and now I have it here. So for me it's something very, very huge. So I really like it, and because I now have my Dutch passport, I went to the elections and I voted. So it was a really amazing experience, because it's something that you would not be able, that you cannot do in your own country, because there is only one party and one person on which you can vote, actually. Right. So it was really nice to experience this.
And Kamar, how was your life before?
Well, I think for us, like I grew up in Syria. So when I was a kid, so for me, it was really like a normal life with any child would live or experience. But as Zina said, like the only thing that we have missed, like to express your opinion or your point of view critically or in a free way. This point is missing in Syria, or was missing, I mean, until now in Syria. So that thing we haven't learned in schools. It's not allowed, like, to speak up or give your own opinion, like in an easy way, even for a teacher, not only for the president or about the president, but also about like people who have like higher position in work or at work. You are not allowed, or it is dangerous to speak up and say your honest opinion about it, because there are some consequences about your action. So when we started with the demonstrations, so I started already as well when I was in Syria with demonstrations against the whole government, just to change, because we are in a democratic place. So we want a new person, we want new things, we want to improve. That's the important thing of democratic, to reflect on the weakness points and then improve it. And we want to improve, we want change, but as a react from the government wasn't that good. And after that, the war has started, and it wasn't like safe to stay there, especially because we spoke up. Right. So it wasn't safe at all. My father was arrested as well because he spoke up. He didn't do anything, just he used his tongue to say his honest opinion about a topic. That's the only thing he did. And again, he was arrested. A friend of my father was arrested, and he is arrested until now. So he's been arrested like for more than 10 years, and we don't know anything about him or about his son. And the only reason, because he just helped others, or he gave his opinion about the topic, or he wanted change. So yeah, it was really nice. We didn't like have economical problems or anything else. The reason that we really wanted is to improve our country, to create a change, to be better. And as a reflection we had like from the government is that no, we are the only one who will like take the government, and we will be your leaders, whether you like it or not. And I don't like this way of tone. So yeah.
So let's go back then to the moment in Syria, which, and please correct me anything that I say that's wrong, but I also think there's probably a lot of people who will listen who maybe don't fully understand what happened. But my understanding is that there were demonstrations in Syria at that time in 2010. And then at a school, right, there was a demonstration, and then Assad sends troops in to basically stop it. And they kill multiple students, right?
Yeah, yes.
Not just one student, but multiple students.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of like the last straw for the Syrian people who were against Assad and were kind of talking about the things that you're talking about, more in favor of, less dictatorship and more democracy type thing. So what was it? Because, it had to have been you had to have been so fed up as Syrian people to actually, the risks, like the power that Assad has. And so that civil war was just kind of such at least in the beginning, such a kind of, just like grassroots, the people rise up and say, no, enough is enough. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe describe what happened? How were people feeling and what led to that, straw breaking moment that caused the rebellion?
Yeah.
I think like what you said also about the students in the school, like even one of them made the draw on the wall and his fingers were cut because he made that draw like he wrote a sentence like we want freedom. So as you said, they are like people that are already fed up with how aggressive the government is, and like there were even like in the 80s. There were also demonstrations in mainly 2 cities in the country. And people in Hama, in a city there, were like put all together in one place and were burned to death because they demonstrated against the regime. And that was in the 80s. Yeah. So as you said, we already have an experience with that regime and we know how aggressive it is. But still people were like, they had enough from the government. And they wanted to speak up even, and they knew that there are a lot of risks. But I think maybe one of the reasons why they had this like courage to speak up was first of all the Arab Spring, where many countries were also like speaking up and the governments were also being like changed. And also another reason, maybe in the 80s, nobody heard about it from the whole world. Yeah. It was all like within the country and nobody heard about it. But now with the internet, with the social media, you can also like make the world know what's going on in your country. So maybe they believed like, even if they would be so aggressive with us, the world cannot let that happen. There are now like the human rights organizations, they cannot let this happen because they will know, we will let them know that this is happening. But still, it did not stop anything.
Yeah.
But at least everyone knows now.
Everyone knows. Yeah.
That's one of the important things, because before, what happened in Hama in the 80s, no one knew about it. You don't have any social media. You don't have any like connections with others from other countries. So that's like fine. But I mean, now with by using social media, it helped us spreading the word. It helped us like telling others about what is happening right now in Syria, and the region wasn't like familiar with this kind of things. I mean, the whole generation, the new generation, our generation, was really like into using digital gadgets, social media, those kind of stuff. But the region wasn't like up to date with those technological things. And that was like slap in the face for them in a way. So yeah, I mean, social media helped us a lot to spread the word and let us other countries or maybe other organizations, as you mentioned, to support us in a way.
So how are things there now? Because the sad thing is that, that's 2010 we're talking about. Now it's 2021. And what I just couldn't help but think while I'm sitting there listening to that is that's almost like the dream scenario. If you're sitting there in a democracy, not talking about the deaths and all that stuff, but it's like, you're sitting in a democracy and you think about these countries across the world that are dictatorships. And it's like, that, no other government can just come in and invade and change the government. That doesn't work. But you hope that the people themselves can rise up and can kind of make change. And like you said, with the Arab Spring, social media was this huge, game changer in that whole scenario. But now I think, quickly the whole civil war in Syria kind of, I guess, ends up in a very political mess with tons of different, factions and different groups who have different interests, competing against each other. And then other foreign governments are involved. And Russia obviously has just sat there and propped up Assad the entire time. And I think it's, when I listen to you talk about what the people in Syria were actually fighting for, and then you listen to people like Putin discuss stability. And it's like, well, Assad is a legitimate ruler of Syria, and we want to keep him there because having a legitimate ruler is stable, you know? But it's like, what stability do you want? Stability of, you know, the being able to chop kids' fingers off at a school because they make a painting, or like you're talking about your dad's friend who has been missing for basically 10 years.
Yeah, until now. I mean, he was arrested with his son, and we don't know why. We don't know the reason. And until now, he is missing, and we don't know if he is alive or not. And his wife still waiting there. And she has a hope. So it was really like dramatic. I mean, when my father was arrested as well, we didn't know if he will stay alive or not, he will come back or not. And we didn't know where to which place he will go. So they will not give you any information. They will not give you anything about it. And they play on this figure. They play on this side to like warn you. If you speak up more, you will be arrested. You will be the next one.
Yeah.
So not only your father, you will be the next one. We've been threatened as well. Like when we were like in the airport, they said, if you'll not go away, you will be arrested with your mother, your sister, and your grandma. So I was like, no, I have to escape. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what I was saying is that that's just the most disappointing thing ever, because you have all these people who did take the risk. They do stand up. And now here we are 11 years later, and none of those people's lives are any better in Syria. And it's just, it's not encouraging for other people and other dictatorships who are unhappy, because then they see, well, what's our choice? We either continue to live with the devil that we know, like an Assad, or we have a revolution. Lots of people die, and millions of people have to flee to other countries. And then 11 years later, it's the same guy, controlling stuff. So how do people, I'm guessing that even the people who were too afraid and didn't speak up probably weren't happy, of course, with Assad. How do people in Syria feel? Is there still hope that things can be better, that maybe Assad, there's more eyeballs on him now and there's a shorter leash, so he can't do quite as extreme of things as he used to do? What's the kind of feeling there now as far as like outlook for the future?
I think people now are focusing, unfortunately, are more focusing now on their basic needs, because even the basic needs are missing now, like food, electricity, water. So he played it very, very smart, I have to admit. So as you said, like we started, like the revolution started very peacefully with some demands from that we want from the government. But now look how big it is. So Al-Assad played it very smart and made it so huge that it is not solved anymore, or like he's the only one who can like solve it. Yeah. Let's say this is what he wants us to perceive. Let's say. I think people are now like the situation in Syria is now so bad that people maybe now they want to like live peacefully and normally. I think some of the people who really, really believed in the revolution still have this hope, and they are still fighting, because even if they get silent now and they're like, okay, we accept Al-Assad, please come back to your place and we are happy with you, he would not leave them alone, So their lives are already destroyed, whatever they choose. So what they would choose is like, okay, we will go further with our decision and we will fight until the end. Because even if we stop fighting, we are dead anyways. So I think this is the hope from the people who really believed in the revolution. And I think the other part of the people are like, really can't find, like they can't even find food now for themselves and for their families. So I think they are now like, just let us live normally and we don't want anything else. So I think they are divided in these two parts.
It's almost like the opposite of what you said before with the, when you haven't experienced democracy really, you grow up in a dictatorship and then you come to a democracy, like you appreciate it so much more. And it's almost the same where it's like, okay, you were living under a dictatorship before, but Syria was a pretty wealthy country. You know, you had a lot of, you know, amenities and nice things, I think, in society. And then after that, you're still living in a dictatorship. Yeah. However, now you're not as wealthy, you know, at least the people aren't. And then your neighborhoods are destroyed, your homes are destroyed, like many family members are gone. So now it's like those people are even worse off. They appreciate that they at least have now some running water or something like that if they have it.
Yeah, but that happens. I mean, in any country, when you have war, that happens a lot. Like it is like a common thing that will happen with or comes with war. I mean, initially, maybe they want, not maybe, I guess they want to, they want freedom, they want change, but they cannot do anything and they cannot go out. They cannot like leave their country for some reason, for purposes, because as I mentioned before, everyone has its own story, has its own situation. So I cannot like say everyone are happy with that situation, but they don't have any other situation. So they have to deal with it. So that's why they are like still there, staying there. They say nothing about anything, just to stay alive, not for to live, but also to stay alive. So that's also important, like keeping your life, so keeping yourself safe or alive. That's also one of the like challenging that we had in Syria. But for us, it is easier because we are out of the country. So we didn't deal with that situation every time. So that's why, for example, to me, I'm still now, I have hope and I still now want freedom. I want to change this regime, but I'm outside. I can speak up freely. I can talk about the situation. And that's my goal. That's my purpose. So I can help them from outside. For them now, the only thing that what they can do in Syria is to stay alive and try to live in a normal way. So that's the thing. Look, there's some people were forced to go out, like the people who are in Turkey and the camps, or as my situation when I came to here. But others, they were not forced to go out. So they would say, no, I would stay here till I die in my country. So that's the thing. And I really appreciate what they do there. For example, my aunt's still there and still like trying to survive. So I really appreciate her. I don't think that's motivation. No, we didn't call it motivation, but like for
resilience, let's say.
Resilience.
Yeah, just surviving. I mean, it's so difficult for people in my situation to even really comprehend what anybody in those situations are going through, because I've never been through, you know, anything like it. We have stuff happen sometimes, like where a hurricane will, you know, come through the US, and then like we commonly use the term like, oh, it's like a war zone, you know, but none of us really like, I mean, obviously there are people who have been to war zones and they've seen it and they can tell you, but 99% of people, you know, in, you know, Western Europe and the US, like we have no idea. And it's very sad because there are, you know, real humans every day that are, like you said, just struggling to survive. And that's not only in war zones. I mean, that's a lot of places in the world. And, you know, we're just so lucky that we're able to live these lives where we just kind of turn a blind eye and say, well, hopefully somebody somewhere is, you know, doing something about it. And then that you just try to ignore it. Because if you think about it all day, you could be depressed, like just thinking about all the, you know, problems in the world. But so you said that you want to speak up and you want to do whatever you can from outside to make it better, to do, you know, make some kind of progress. What do you guys hope to, you know, do with your lives here in the Netherlands? What do you hope to kind of do to help your people back in Syria?
I think like one of our responsibilities now that we are here are, as Amar said, like raising awareness about the situation, making people aware of what's happening there and why it's happening. And also because, as I said, like Al-Assad played it very smartly, so that people now they think who have like the least knowledge about the situation, they think that Al-Assad is now fighting ISIS and terroristic groups, while this is not the situation at all. Like he helped informing ISIS just to like show the world, like, look how great I am and I am fighting terrorists, blah, 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 so that he stays there. So number one is raising awareness, like these like what ISIS did, for example, were not one of our like demands. We wanted something else. It was all very peaceful. This is number one. Number two, I think also one of our responsibilities, as I said, because the situation there is so bad that people do not have work, do not have income, cannot like get food for their children, cannot educate them. One of our responsibilities is also to help them financially, to help these families financially, like to go on with their lives, because they have no other way to do it. So also the financial aid and financial support, this is also one of our responsibilities. Taking part in demonstrations, in petitions, and trying to spread the word, let's say, the word. And I think this is also like my demands for, or like my requests for people who are listening to us. Like, if you really want to help, because now it's a political game. We cannot, like, you cannot solve the problem. I cannot do it either. So I cannot like request people like, please change it, because they cannot. But at least from a humanitarian side, we can do a lot. For people who are already in the Netherlands, for example, we can support them by providing them jobs, by helping them get higher education so that they find jobs and they can support their families there financially. What we can also do is donations, buy money, buy clothes, buy medicines. And also, as I said, like taking part in demonstrations, etc. So I think from a humanitarian side, we can do a lot. Mm-hmm. We can do less from a political side. That's from political perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that point. I mean, it is really important. Our goal here, as Zina mentioned, like to spread the word, raising awareness, and also trying to show others, like kind of showing the positive image of Syrian people, yes, refugees, because when you came here, the first thing they will have, like the first impact would be really in a negative way. So what we're trying to do is, no, not everyone is the same. Everyone has its own personality, has its own way of reacting on different situations. So not all refugees are bad and not all refugees are good. It's not that point or this point. So, I mean, I know we are refugees. I know we are still new here, but we can adapt in different ways as well. I mean, we can like now communicate with each other, and you can understand me very well. So the thing is like really raising awareness to change kind of the negative mindset about refugees, and help others from help our people there in the country, to let them like survive till now. So yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah,
I want to get into a lot of those different things that you just talked about. One of the things I think that's kind of in the news now, and I think you were just touching on it a little bit before, is you are starting to have governments in Europe take back residence permits and say, hey, we think Syria is safe enough now. You need to go back home. And I was having a lunch last weekend with a friend of mine who's Palestinian, but was like raised in Syria. And so that's like basically her home. And she said she goes back to visit because she has cousins and aunt and stuff like that. And she said like, you only have memories of your childhood because like your childhood, or for her speaking specifically, she said her childhood home was gone. The school that she studied at gone. You know, it's like you don't have really, your home is gone. Mm-hmm. And I think most people can't even imagine that. You know, it's like, especially here in the Netherlands, when I lived in Amsterdam, the building I lived in was built in like 1676 or something like that, you know? So wow. to not even be able to go back and see like, your childhood home, is really kind of sad, and not kind of, very sad. But you said before that, you have a lot of people who, if they did go back to Syria, like they're kind of on a list basically where it's no, if you show up, you're going to jail. Mm-hmm. And I imagine that a lot of the people who are in Europe are kind of in that situation because they were the ones who spoke out. They were the ones that, thought they could change and, were pro-democracy and this kind of stuff. So how does it make you feel? And how does it make, I guess, other refugees that like feel when it's like, because it's like you said before, where you had a good life in Syria. It was a wealthy country, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you being a successful, fortunate person in Syria. But then it just rapidly becomes a situation where, as you said, like with your father, he did nothing but use his tongue to speak out against things that in this country, the Netherlands, we believe is a fundamental right, is to be able to speak your opinion against the government and that they can't stop that. So only for doing that, he, you say he was arrested, right? Mm-hmm. And so basically that was kind of your family's fate if you stay and probably if you go back. So how does it make you feel then when you see like countries just kind of look at it and say, I think a lot of people have this perception of Syrian refugees where it's like you're trying to be a freeloader or something, like you just want to live here with, government support and not have to, work and this kind of stuff. And it's like, it couldn't be any further from the truth.
Actually, it is. The funny thing is, like, I was in that like discussion with a friend of mine like 2 weeks ago, and I was like saying to that friend, like, it feels hard that you are now, even now I'm like a Dutch person. I have the nationality, but still I cannot go back to my country because I'm not safe there, but I'm safe here. So it feels really hard and weird that you cannot go back to your own country because there is like a regime there who has control on everything, and you will be like kicked out of that country or arrested. So you don't have any power there. So it feels hard, it feels weird. And also you cannot do anything about it. So what at least I can do here is to show that I can do a lot of things to improve myself. And hopefully in the future, I will come back and build my country from the scratch. I don't need any help of that regime. I can build it by myself and by other people, other refugees who came here, who improved themselves, work hard on them, on their capabilities, and they will change their countries in the future to be better for the next generation. Maybe it's not good for my generation, but we started it. We started a good change, and hopefully for the next generation would be safe place, good place for them so that they can raise up and gain healthy knowledge, learn in a safe environment, safe atmosphere where they can speak up freely. It is, I mean, I cannot describe it a lot. I mean, it is hard, like to, I don't have any expressions about it, to be honest, because when I think about not being there and I'm not allowed to go there, I'm not allowed to visit my relatives there, it is difficult. And I don't know if you would like, or if you could experience this, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. And anyone would experience this because it is hard. So yeah.
So, because like there were so many things discussed.
I was gonna say, did you forget the question?
Yeah.
So, about like what you mentioned about how people think about refugees, like they are here just to like get the governmental, the financial assistance, blah blah blah. I think also one of our responsibilities is also to show people that we can do a lot and we can add value to these communities where we now live. It's of course it's full of, let's say, difficulties, but at the end you can get there. And this is what I also think one of our duties, because it like we managed, like Amar and I managed to like start studying and finishing our studies successfully. So I think it is also like one of our responsibilities to help other young newcomers to take this step as well. And this is also why we worked as peer coaches for newcomer students at Rotterdam University of Applied Sciences. It's like to help them with the registration, with the exams, all of this stuff, like to try to minimize these difficulties, to help them on the way.
Yeah.
Something else that I think also people think about refugees is whenever someone who has already like graduated there and wants to work here, so not like in our age, but a bit older, it's very difficult to find a job. So even when they want to change this mindset of like refugees are here just to take like financial assistance, also when they try to find a job, for some people it's doable. For others, it is very, very difficult because let's say employers do not believe in their like certificates and their diplomas, in their abilities, because of one of the problems is, for example, the communication barrier. Let's say they do not speak Dutch fluently. And I think it is very, very understandable from someone who is like, let's say 30, 40, 50 plus.
Yeah.
You cannot like expect them learning the language and speaking it fluently in like
easy with the 30 thing. I turned 30 like next week, so 30-year-olds are still very young. They can learn languages just fine.
No, definitely.
Yeah, let's say 40, 50, 60.
So it is difficult, or like asking them to like having to study again. So so I think also more awareness on that part has to be raised to make it easier for these people to get in the job market, because they really want to and they are motivated enough and they have the experience. Maybe like as an employer, you don't really believe in his diploma on that, on the diploma, Syrian diploma that you see. But there are other ways to let him prove that if you really want to give him a chance. Like you can provide internship, you can provide traineeship, you can get a contract with a like 2 months trial period thing. There are so many options. So whenever people really want to help in this way, and they don't have to help like from sympathy or whatever. No. It's just giving fair chances to everyone.
Yeah.
Because it is not his fault because he had to leave the country. As Amr said, some people were forced to leave the country. So it is not their fault. So they have to get their fair chance as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned this 5 years ago. You said you were talking about actually that was one of the main problems, is that people come over here with a lot of skills. Maybe you're an engineer or something like that, but yet because of the lack of the equivalency infrastructure of being able to recognize these diplomas and stuff, you have a lot of highly qualified people who can't actually get, the positions to actually, benefit the Netherlands economy, benefit themselves, all these kind of things. And, I do understand though, you will have people on the other side who will say it's also not, Dutch people's fault. Like if you have a Dutch engineering student who's trying to get a job and now he's competing against a Syrian engineering student, it's like people will have this kind of mindset where it's like, it's also not their fault, that people have to come here and now the job market gets kind of, much more competitive. And I know a lot of people from, Spain who, for instance, and Italy who have come here, they try to get architect jobs, engineering jobs, and they've had 3-4 years of experience in Spain or in Italy. And then they have to do an internship here, or a traineeship here or multiple to try to get jobs. And I think the best point that you just made, in my opinion, is just that you're just asking for the access, the opportunity to say like, hey, and I think, it does take time because in the beginning, you don't realize that it's a problem. And then hopefully they are working on solutions like this. But yeah, trying to find ways to say, look, if you can take a test to show that your knowledge of engineering, let's say, or architecture from your degree in Syria is that, the same level as, people who have a degree here, then, you have the same access to all these jobs as everybody else. Because I think that's all you can ask for is just, the equal opportunity to people.
And I think a simple chance or like a simple opportunity can change a lot in someone's life. So to give like a personal example, for example, my father, when he could not work, when he could not find a job because of the language, and of course he's 50 plus, it's very difficult to learn the language now. And he has like, for example, 35 experience in his own field in the dental industry. So he was not able to find a job. He was sent to the secondhand store to work there like voluntarily and then stay and keep receiving the financial assistance. Well, this is not what he wants. And he got like so depressed. And I believe this is also like valid for everyone, I think, who would like to work. And I think like Syrians are really, really hard worker. So for men staying home, it's a huge thing. Like staying home and not going to work, not being able to work, it's a really huge thing. So he got like depressed, and of course, when your father, the like your model in life, when his situation is not good enough and he is depressed and he has changed and he's not in the mood anymore, the whole family's mood gets changed as well.
Yeah.
So it was difficult for all of us because he was having difficulties with it. And he did not get like any like support from the government or municipality to like start his own business or to find a job, whatever. We were once sent to one session in which they explained like, if you want to start up your own business, you can do this and that. I was also new in the Netherlands. It was all in Dutch and I did not understand a word. Like even when they wanted to like make us a favor and like send us to such an information session, we got from the session even more upset than we were before getting in there, because we did not feel that we are treated fairly. We can do a lot, and my dad wants to do a lot as well, and he's motivated enough and he has the experience, he has the network, he has everything to build a successful business. But still, he did not get this equal or like fair opportunity to get started. And we had to figure it all like out with our own efforts. My time also, I helped them with that, even though I was studying. But we managed to start up his own business, and then our lives got changed. Like the whole atmosphere at home was changed. We are all like, we felt more calm. We felt happier because now my father is also like now getting his motivation again, and he's happy. So I think like a small change can do a lot. So I think what I want to say with this is like, don't minimize or like undermine. Let's say, don't undermine an opportunity that you are offering to someone, because it can change a lot. In my situation, when I also came here to the Netherlands, I did not know like, where can I register for the university? Yeah. Which universities are there? Which studies are there? I did not know anything. And the support that I got from someone has really also helped me a lot. Like she took me to the open days to get more information about the studies, to know about the how to get about the admission criteria, all of this stuff. And she actually helped me like in the first step of like building up my new future. And here I am now, because I think I'm very grateful for her for these first steps where I needed the help the most, let's say. So I would say don't underestimate any help that you can offer, because it can really lead to huge changes in the future.
So what, because I want to try to summarize that a little bit. Mm-hmm. So basically you're saying that if I understand it correctly, the difficulty is especially for people who are 40, 50, whatever. You come here, you only speak Arabic. You don't speak much English at all. You don't
even if you speak English, actually, when some companies, because my dad does speak English, but to work in this industry, for example, you really need Dutch. So
yeah,
it depends.
So you speak a little bit of English, maybe. You don't speak any Dutch, most likely, if you come from Syria. Yeah. And so when you're trying to do things like sign up for Dutch lessons, or go to free trainings like the integration type of training stuff that they give, like it's very difficult, you're saying, in that situation when you don't yet know Dutch, you don't know much English. There weren't a lot of resources for people like your dad at that time to actually, okay, so you're going to have a workshop about how to start your own business, but it's in Dutch. So therefore, like, he couldn't do it. And you said, basically like his whole life and your whole family's life changed once he got to the point that he could do that. So what do you think a, helpful solution would be in that? Is it, I mean, obviously more is possible now than was then, but is it, someone who speaks, Arabic and Dutch that can help these people when they come here to be able to learn like what to do to learn Dutch and to where to find the courses and all those kind of things, that then makes people feel like they're more welcome instead of just like, oh, well, if you can't speak any of these languages, then I'm sorry. Is that what you mean? Like someone in that situation who can help these people who aren't going to be able to quickly learn a new language?
I think this is one option, but also the other one is like, for example, in the case of my father, because he speaks English, let's say, of course, let's say the person who works in the municipality can also speak English. Apparently, he could get some more like personalized supervision, let's say, or like coaching, instead of like just sending him to any place to get some information. If someone who speaks English, for example, sits with him and explains what we got explained in the Dutch session, if they would like have some more time for us to explain it in English, it would have been very easy. Or as you said, to get like a translator or something who can help in that. So there are many options, but I think it's like the personalized attention, personalized time for this person, for this specific situation, because not everyone is the same and not all situations are the same.
Yeah.
I want to mention or to add something on that point. I mean, also being accepted in the community. So trying to sometimes you cannot like help or make big steps in order to help others, but the only thing what you can do is really support them mentally. So accepting them like, okay, I understand you're trying hard to reach your goal and I support you. The only 2 words might really change a lot in that person. For example, in my study, when my teacher said to me like, I know it is hard for you to learn Dutch. I know you're following like a Dutch program study, but still I know that you will manage it, and I know you will graduate from that study. And now then, actually after 4 years, from his support, from his like or due to his words, his support, I tried, or it gives me like motivation to move on and go on in order to reach my goal. So even for some people, like, okay, languages is really essential part in order to help others, in order to communicate, but also when you stand with each other, when we like support each other, accept each other, even though that we are different, that also helps. When you feel safe in that place, you feel like, okay, I'm welcome here. Mm-hmm. So that also gives me like motivation to work on that thing, to start the initiative to search for other solutions if that option didn't work.
Yeah, it's interesting because I want to try to look at it from the other point of view, so that way we can kind of see where it's like the middle ground could be. And I think like I have an analogy for it, which would basically be like let's say something terrible happens. The Netherlands has such good like healthcare and universal coverage of stuff that this couldn't really happen. But let's say, for example, you broke your leg, you couldn't do your job anymore. Maybe you were a contractor and you didn't have like independent, income replacement, insurance. So then basically your healthcare costs will be covered, but the income's not coming in, so you can't afford your rent. So you ask your friend and you say, hey friend, can I stay with you for a while until this broken leg is healed and then I can go work again? And your friend says yes. However, he's just like a total asshole to you the entire time, right? Like every day he looks at you like with these mean looks while you're on the couch watching TV because you can't do anything else because your leg's broken. Yep. And you get the point. It's like he then kind of treats you like a second-class citizen because you're using his generosity. And I think what a lot of people would say, maybe from a more conservative side, when you say like, if we could have these extra resources of like, because everything you talk about, that is going to take money, that's going to take attention, it's going to take planning. And so what a lot of people would hear when they say that is like, listen, the Netherlands isn't built to, like help people in all these different languages and do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like we are already offering you a place like to live. We're letting you do this. We're giving you government support. Like, where do we draw the line and like, how much are we supposed to do for you? And I think that what it kind of sounds like is basically that, it's like you don't want the relationship to be quite so transactional. It's like if they will view you as like a friend, like a generous friend, where it's like instead of the friend who lets you stay at their house and then they treat you like shit, they actually are very generous and like, oh, is there anything I can get for you? Like, I'm going out this such and such place. Can I grab something? It's like when you do have the healed broken leg and you're able to go back to work, like you're going to forever love this friend and be so appreciative of them. And I think that's kind of what it sounds like, you know, you guys are advocating for, is if people will have less of a, oh, you're a burden. How do we at the minimum level take care of this burden? Instead of having that relationship, if it's a, hey, let's be above and beyond, like we'll be as hospitable as possible, be as welcoming as possible. What can we do to make it as easy on these people as possible? That then that would actually benefit everybody, not only Syrian refugees, but also the Netherlands and society, when you guys are trying to, you know, to live and integrate here.
Exactly. Definitely. Yeah. And now actually, recently you're not living like in one place with the same kind of people. You live in a big cities, big countries, whereas everyone from different places, from different cultures, trying to mingle, to integrate with each other, to know each other. So, and by social media, it is easier to get to know more information about other cultures, to get to know other people from different perspectives and to accept them. So I might like, we might like don't have the same point of views on different aspects of life, but still we can live with each other and we can help each other in order like to make this country better place for everyone. So like the feeling of getting accepted, it is also, I find, important to give us like motivation in order to work more and more. And like it is one of the keys, let's say, for refugees in general.
Yeah. And what I also want to say is like, as you said, like these, what's like the generosity that you are like offering, it's not only for the refugees themselves, but also for the country. If you now look at universities and higher education institutions, you can see a lot of Syrian students who have started studying there in higher education. When these students graduate, it's not necessarily that they would like immediately go back to Syria. Yep. It could be the case that they would work here. And like we are one of these examples who graduated from the Dutch universities and are working there and are giving back to the community. So this is something that I wanted to say. Something else about the motivation and feeling accepted. At the beginning, I was like, because I came in 2014, there were like few Syrians here. I started my studies and I was the only Syrian in the class.
I was going to push a button and get a sound effect, but I wasn't sure which one.
I was thinking of the button as
well. I had an explosion one. I was like, I don't have anything for that.
Okay, sorry, continue. So, I forgot what I was saying.
I'm sorry.
Motivation, exception, acceptance.
Yes. I was...
Can't wear this shirt and make an English mistake.
I was like, let's say, one of the first Syrian students who joined the university. So it was still not very familiar, like to see a girl with a hijab or what. Like there in Rotterdam, there are so many like girls with hijab, let's say, or like Muslim girls. But in my class, I was like the only one and stuff. So at the beginning, because it was all new, I get the feeling that everyone is looking at me. Not because of my hijab, but just because you are new, you are new. We're not familiar with the people who look like you. So it felt like everyone is watching me, and they already have their thoughts about me, prejudgments, and I have to change these prejudgments. They are now challenging me, although this was not necessarily the case. But how I felt about it is like I am now being challenged to change these stereotyped thoughts.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, it gave me motivation. Like I should show them that they are wrong, that I can do it, that I'm strong, all of this stuff.
Zina, warrior princess.
Yes, exactly. But it was not enjoyable. I was motivated, but I was not happy about it because I felt that that someone is watching me, is rating me until I make a mistake. So they're like you made a mistake.
It's got to be so stressful and exhausting.
It is.
Definitely.
It is.
Until I could make it like in the first 2 years. And then I got used to it. Or like I could prove them that I am in the right place. And then it felt so like chill, let's say. Yes. So I think these are like also some of the feelings that we go through when we enter a place for the first time. And also like speaking of prejudgments, of course, you also have like a lot of them. Like some people telling you like, you achieved a very nice place, like with your language, with your studies, you're doing very great. Although you definitely have so many difficulties and barriers because of your parents who come from an Arab background, because of your hijab, because of your religion. And also because you're a woman. And I'm like, thank you for the compliment.
What are you talking about?
But what are you talking about? These are definitely not obstacles for me. And without my parents, for example, who you consider as an obstacle, I wouldn't have been able to stand here today. So you experience this, like you can see this, like the thoughts translated in words. And also I was like, so what I also do is like trying to change these thoughts and these prejudgments in like going to sessions with Dutch people, explaining them who we are, why we are here, and all of this basic stuff. And you see like like once someone said to me like, thank you for being our mirror, because now you showed us the thoughts that are being that are placed in our minds. Thank you for showing us that we are not always right.
Mm-hmm.
That people are not necessarily who we think they are. So it's really nice to see this change also happening.
Yeah, and you said the thing before about the stereotypes of refugees, and it also goes both ways, where it's like, you can have stereotypes about Dutch people and where Europeans, Americans, whatever, but it's also to where the same thing you said before of everybody's different. It doesn't matter if you're refugee or European, you could run into, 10 different Dutch people on the street and they have 10 different views. So you really can't generalize so much in either direction, because then you're just going to kind of be walking through with just this lens of people are either this or they're that without even really, knowing who they are. But I live in such a bubble, I think, because, Rotterdam is so international. Mm-hmm. Amsterdam also incredibly international. And the people there, they just basically have to be so tolerant, or else why would you live there? Go live somewhere else if you want to have somewhere that's like not diverse. But yeah, 100%, like, when I came, when I flew to Amsterdam, that was the first time I'd ever been out of the US, and we, ever since 9/11, you've kind of just been like invaded with this whole like Islam thing, and then terrorists and all the different stuff. And it's like, you're young when that, like, I think I was like 8 years old or something, when that happened. So, I guess I was 10 if you do the math, but anyway, the point is, it's like, I also had tons of stereotypes and just didn't understand. And I guess I was just ignorant, and then I was so impressed with Dutch people because they were just so open. Like, of course you would have some people who were, like we say, everybody's different, but there's going to be assholes of every nationality. It doesn't matter.
Of course.
But I was just so impressed with, how open and kind of accepting. And there were so many initiatives so quickly, and so many different kind of like, also in the classes, we very quickly, a lot of those English classes became like, probably some of them, no exaggeration, were 50% Syrian and then 50% everywhere else, like Dutch, and then, kind of all across Europe and some from Asia. But it was like, to see those classes be so well, kind of like, I guess, cohesive in a way. It's I was just so impressed by it. And it's something that's probably shaped me, because I was, I think, 25 at that time, 24, 25. So to kind of go through that experience at an age when you're still hopefully forming your opinions and things, it was such a kind of wonderful thing, for me to meet people from, and even, like this whole recent thing that happened again with, Israel and Palestine. It's like 6 years ago, me would have nowhere near the level of, like interest or knowledge or any of that stuff. And then when I got here, and I have that typical, like, hey, I'm American, I'm pro-Israel. But then you start talking to Palestinians and you talk to people like, oh, I'm not so sure how I feel about this anymore, So
yeah,
it's just like you say, that when you are around people from different places, you either start to consider their points of view, and you filter it. You decide what you agree with, what you disagree with, and then you grow from that. Or you shut yourself off from that and say, no, I don't have any desire or interest in that. But you're not going to live in a place like Rotterdam normally if that's kind of how you feel. So I'm sure that there were probably a lot of, Dutch people who felt like you helped them in their, I guess, views and understanding and stuff. And I want to ask you guys, because you both speak Dutch, obviously well enough to get your Dutch passport. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to kind of ask you basically two things. One, about how was your experience coming here and learning Dutch? But then also, how difficult was it that the Netherlands is one of those places where you also have to learn English at the exact same time, basically. So, and like you said, your bachelor's program was in English, so you had to learn that. But you also have to learn Dutch to live here. So, I mean, that's like triple difficult, basically, So can you guys maybe tell that story?
Well, basically, for me, when I came here, I knew like the basic stuff of English. So that helped me a lot to communicate with other people and help others, refugees here, in order to with the legal like works papers. So I like tried to translate a bit from Arabic to English, English to Arabic. But then I was like, okay, so I'm good at English. Why not like learning English and being an English teacher or translator instead of learning Dutch? And that would be easy for me, like an easy path in my situation. So I started like learning Dutch, the basic level, like B2 level, in order to
B2 is a lot higher than a lot of people. B2 Let's not call that so
level,
basic.
B2 level.
I mean, like, it is. I mean, the thing is,
it's people living here for 10 years that can't speak
it. Like when you start in the study, you would see that B2 is really basic. Like one of the things that you have to achieve in order to follow a study here, study program in the Netherlands, is to have a B2 level in Dutch, especially if your study program is in Dutch or in English. So I thought, okay, I will follow like an English training program. So I wouldn't like use a lot of Dutch in my study. So I've started like learning Dutch, and I passed the Dutch exam from the first time. And I started like with my study. But surprise, surprise, my study wasn't like in English. It is, I'm going to be an English teacher, but still I have to achieve a higher level in Dutch in order to communicate with Dutch pupils. So it was like a nightmare for me the first year. Because I didn't know about this. I thought it would be like an English program where I wouldn't like use Dutch and I would use it only with my classmates. But actually I had like, I have like in the beginning of the year was 50% of the study was in Dutch and 50% was in English. And I have to achieve like the C1 level in English and the C1 level in Dutch on the same time.
That's why language schools are making so much money.
Exactly. And both of them are not my like mother tongue, So I started like working hard, practicing a lot, prejudgments. I faced that a lot. Some people would say you will not achieve that. You will not go further because you're not good enough in both languages. But then after that, the last year of my study, if I compare the first year and the last year, my Dutch level has been improved because of this study. Actually, this year, I didn't learn any new word of English. My whole study this year was in Dutch. My minor was in Dutch. My internship was in Dutch. And my thesis is in Dutch. So I know I'm an English teacher, or I'm going to be an English teacher, but still, I need to improve my Dutch language in order to communicate with people here while I'm working in a Dutch school in the Netherlands.
Why did you decide you wanted to be an English teacher?
Because I've seen like it is really important to learn common language, and nowadays English is really an international language and everyone can understand it. And I've experienced how important it is to understand others, to communicate with them easily, and to avoid misunderstanding and miscommunication. So that's why, and in Syria, we have English in education, but they don't focus really on improving the English skills specifically. So it is like a subject as a math or any normal subject, but they don't like highlight on that as a important thing. So that's why a lot of refugees, when came here, they don't speak any word of any languages. They cannot communicate with others. So I found really important to be an English teacher, to help others to learn this language in order to communicate with others. So that's why I became an English teacher.
I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. Through the study, through reading a lot of articles in Dutch, through communicating with others, even though you make a lot of mistakes and they would misunderstand you because you might use the word incorrectly, but still you learn from that. You learn from that. I have tons of situations where I used Dutch incorrectly, like in not a good way, and I've been like misunderstood. But still, again, when I talk about it, when I said I'm not sure if that's the correct way of saying that, from that moment I broke like the ice cube, let's say. I don't know if that an idiom.
You broke the ice.
But and from that moment, like, we communicate, we could like improve my language from learning from my mistakes. It's been a long journey in learning Dutch English at the same time. And also sometimes I learn from my students. Like, I teach like English for Dutch students from like teenagers, like 13 till 14. So sometimes when I say something in Dutch, they would correct me in front of the class. They would say, "No, miss, you wouldn't say that. You have to say this word. It's not, this is not a word in Dutch." So from this way, like communicating with pupils, trying to integrate, you would really like learn the Dutch. So yeah.
You guys are heroes for learning. But I love what you said about the English thing, because I'm obviously 100% biased, so nobody takes my opinion on this seriously. However, I love people. I love meeting new people, and I love to talk, obviously, because of the podcast. So I love, like, I'm the 100% most blessed person in the world, because I can just like walk around Europe and almost talk to, or the world a lot of times, and talk to almost anybody in my native language. Like, but it makes me feel guilty. Like when I'm traveling around and stuff, like I feel guilty speaking English to people. But yet, you know, like last time I went to Germany, I was feeling so guilty speaking English every time. But then I remembered all those Germans come to Scheveningen and they speak English the whole time. So what am I worried about?
Yeah.
But I think like that is the beauty of, you know, because of Hollywood and because of all these things where English has just become, you know, so present throughout the whole world, that we finally, as a world, I think, have a language that well, obviously also because of the British taking it all across the world as well. But we finally have, you know, this language that kind of is so far out in front and has so much infrastructure that it kind of can become the common, you know, language for people across the world to use. And I don't think that that's something that people should, you know, feel nationalistic or whatever about, because when, you know, the UK did Brexit, they didn't take long at all for Germans and French people to start arguing in Brussels of, oh, what's going to be the, you know, kind of now new standard language of the EU? Like, it's going to be German. Is it French? And they start arguing. And my thinking is like, it should actually now be even better that it's English, because it's not the official language of any EU country. So therefore, all EU countries are speaking this non-native language for them, and they're all on kind of the same ground. And you'll hear like Macron and people like that, like they'll, like, don't get me wrong, French is a beautiful language. And I'm not advocating that these languages die. I'm just saying that, you know, Macron would like to kind of start these initiatives where they try to get French to catch up with English. Like, why spend all those resources when it would be so much better to be helping your people? Yeah, and easier to be helping your people speak English, to kind of be more interconnected in the whole world thing. So I love and that's what basically it sounded like you were saying, is that you wanted to help, you know, other people who were in your situation and even who weren't as lucky as you to be connected in the world. So if you do have a situation where you end up in another country, you at least can communicate in the common language. And that's what I love about it is I love the idea of connecting people and just like we're able to have this conversation. And last podcast was with, 2 Dutch guys. It's like, I love that ability to just kind of be able to communicate with people from all around the world, because then we can all learn from each other. We can all kind of said, but we can all really make the world better when we can speak to each other and communicate.
Exactly. And that's the good thing, or the positive thing about the Netherlands is here they really focus on learning English in education system. So for each branch, they learn them like specific idioms, specific ways of talking in order, if you don't want to learn English because you don't know, like languages, that's fine by that. But however, you have to learn the basic stuff in order when you have to work in that branch, you can communicate with people that are not local, or they are like visitors or whatsoever. So this is a really nice gesture from the Netherlands. Like they will try to not force them, but motivate them in a positive way to learn English from their interests, from their point of view. Like you like to be a nurse, so I will let you learn English, how to be a nurse in English. So like interactive learning, let's say. So that's really nice of doing this here.
When I first moved here and I was living in Amsterdam and I went to ING to do something with like setting up my bank account, there was this guy in front of me in line who was like really frustrated with the lady behind the counter because he kept trying to, I don't remember the language, but he kept trying to talk to her in some other language. And she said, "Listen, sir, we speak Dutch and we speak English. We learn English so we can speak to people who don't speak Dutch. So you got to learn one of the two." And I just thought, I'd been here for like a couple of months at the time. I thought, that's incredible. Where she's like, this is why we learned English. Okay, so
exactly.
Leave me alone.
Exactly. Like we learned English to communicate with you guys. So
this
please, I want to use it.
The button.
Oh yeah.
The button.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
But we had the real laughter then. So
yes, that's right.
And what about for you, Zina? So I think you kind of seem to enjoy Dutch actually from whenever I speak with you. Is that correct?
Yes. I speak Dutch fluently, luckily. And what I did, like,
not luckily, you worked very hard, I think, on that.
Yes, definitely.
How many courses? How many Dutch courses did you take?
Not a lot, to be honest, because I focused only on Dutch. So, like, no. I followed a different strategy than ours. So she had to like learn the both languages at the same time. But in my case, I decided to learn Dutch first because it was my priority. And then I started improving my English for my study program. So I focused on one thing at a time. So for the Dutch, let's say it took me like 1 year to achieve like the B2 level, which is necessary for like higher education.
Yeah.
But it was like very intensive at Leiden University. So it was like very intensive. And in my study, I did not use Dutch only to communicate with my classmates. But afterwards, when finding a job, I did my work in Dutch. It's what all a Dutch company. And from the moment I started, they wanted to like talk to me in English sometimes. But I was like, no, let's do it in Dutch, please. Because otherwise,
they'll speak English to you all day long.
Definitely.
Yep.
So I told them like, no, please let's keep communicating in Dutch. And I worked there for like 10 months. And I think this also helped me a lot to learn the Dutch terms of my field, because I learned them all in English in my study. So now I know them in Dutch as well. So yeah.
Nice. And so, okay, I want to just spend a little bit of time now because, this is one of the difficulties of like, it was the same thing with Christina, like Christina Moreno, who, founded She Matters. She was the first podcast episode guest. And, she has this incredible story of going from, struggling single mom on welfare in the US to now, then being international, human rights lawyer in The Hague, and then founding She Matters. Now they had that awesome, announcement with Nike where they're kind of training people to kind of training, refugees and specifically to kind of re-enter the workforce and things like that. But what I feel so bad about with the podcast sometimes is like, I don't want her to be known as the person who used to be on welfare, but that's her story. You know what I mean? It's like, and she doesn't shy away from it. She's not embarrassed, by it. But what you kind of have to do with the podcast is you have to tell people that story. You have to because you are trying to show, she wants other people who may be in a situation like that or worse to know that you can overcome it, especially refugees, for her instance. So I don't want you guys to just be known as refugees. I know you have identities besides that. So just let's spend a little bit of time telling me, what do you do now? Kind of what's your life like here? What are your goals, hopes, aspirations, and all that stuff?
For me personally, I just finished my master's studies in marketing management yesterday.
Congratulations. Good
timing. You have a clap button.
Oh yeah, where is it? Oh.
No. So it was just yesterday, the last assignment that I handed in. So
you're busy, man. Graduate, great. Get a master's,
and then being on podcast. Exactly. So I just finished my master's studies in marketing management, as I said. Last year, I worked for 10 months in a Dutch company, also in marketing. It is a tech startup, so I was responsible for all the marketing activities. So it was really great, there. Definitely. And now I have two options: either going back to the job because they called me and they were like, "If you're done, we would love to have you again. If you're done with your masters." And also I'm also waiting for an answer from another company. So we within 2 weeks it should be
Congratulations, man.
Yes, thank you.
Quite the success story there.
Yes, luckily. So, yeah. And for my hopes, my aspiration is to have a meaningful life, to be able to give something to the community, to have this added value, not only to give this impression to others, look what I'm doing, and
look at me.
Yeah, and no, it's for myself to feel that I am doing something.
Yeah.
Even as I told you, I finished yesterday, and I was planning to take a month, a holiday vacation, and now I'm oh my god, it's a whole month. Isn't it gonna be so boring? I want to do something. So I think this is what I wanna achieve. Just live happily, peacefully, and also have this added value and the feeling that I'm doing something that I'm having my added value. Let's say
very noble goal.
Yes,
nice. Well, now I'm studying to be an English teacher. So this year is my last year. I'm going to graduate in July, hopefully. So last week I've submitted my second draft of my thesis. So no,
yes,
not yet.
The button.
You're obsessed.
And I will start working in a Dutch school in August as an English teacher as well. Yeah. Thank you. For Praktijk school, I don't know if you know about the education system here. And also next to that, I'm a freelancer, trying to help other students, other refugees, anyone who needs support with integrating with the educational system, or have any questions about how to handle or manage those difficulties during the process of getting accepted in a university or in a study program. And a personal teacher as well.
English personal
teacher. English personal teacher.
You have some competition here.
Hey, listen to how good you speak English, okay? I don't think I have any competition.
English, but you both do.
So basically that's it for now. Trying to work and focus on my study in order to graduate. And after that, my hopes for this future, hopefully I will follow master program, of course. But also my goal here is really to, I have the basic things that I could offer for others in order to help them. So why not? So I really want to support others in order like to don't make the same mistake that I did before, and make their path easier than mine. And I mean, that's what you said, like our purpose or our goal of being here. I mean, if I can do this, so why not? And after that, I would feel like I did something good at the end of the day. I can like sleep safely and feel okay. I achieved something. I could make someone happy for the day, which is completely fine. That's my goal for the day. So I can like take a nap or take a take a piece or a
naps
time
are
of
always
rest.
nice. Yeah,
I know.
Support the nap idea.
So yeah, that's being ready to help others, take the initiative to help others who would face the same experience or the same struggles that I did, or others from other cultures as well, other difficulties. So yeah, that's basically it, I guess.
Well, you both have incredible stories, and thank you so much for coming and sitting down and speaking with me.
Thank you for having us.
Do you guys have any organizations or anything that you want to shout out that people can check out and support that are doing the things that you talked about before? You talked about human aid and different things like that will help people in Syria or help people refugees here in the Netherlands. Anybody that you want to shout out and tell people to go check out and support?
I would say first of all, like Kamar is as she said, personal teacher, English teacher. So if you want any support,
and we organize like
easy.
Why?
The best. Come on. You know how competitive I am.
Yeah, I see.
Podcast is over. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I mean, like we're planning to organize like free sessions, English sessions in Rotterdam. And the main purpose of it really to let the people integrate with each others and meet the locals with newcomers, and by learning a new language, which is English or Dutch. But our main goal for now is English, and we will start with that on Friday. But also we sometimes try to give like online free classes for newcomers, refugees, also for refugees who are still in, as it say, in the Netherlands. Those also, they don't have really a lot of freedom or flexibility to work here because they just are waiting for a result at the end, whether they will get accepted in this country or not. So they cannot start with anything, not with work or study or learning a Dutch language as well. So at least what we could do is socialize with those people and let them feel safe and welcomed in this community for a while, let's say. So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything in mind.
Beside Ammar's organization, of course, so for offering like financial aid for people in Syria, the organization that I trust the most is Molham Team.
How do you spell that?
Yes, it's MOLHAM Team. So they do a lot of activities. Yeah. Yes.
Molham Team.
So they do a lot within Syria, but also in the camps in the countries around. And for if you wanna help people who just came to the Netherlands, there is UAF organization. They provide help for refugees who would like to complete their higher education in the Netherlands. So there is like a mentor program in which you sign up and you will be like a personal coach for someone who is willing to, who is studying or willing to study in the Netherlands. So you can meet like once in a week or in 2 weeks just to have a conversation and just so that they feel that they have someone who has maybe more information and more knowledge about how things go, or just to practice the language, basically. Yeah. So I would recommend these two organizations. And like my last call is, as I said, if you can help, if you can provide an opportunity, do not undermine this. It can really, really change a lot. And just so that they feel that they have someone who has maybe more information and more knowledge about how things go, or just to practice the language, basically. So I would recommend these two organizations. And like my last call is, as I said, if you can provide an opportunity, do not undermine this. It can really, really change a lot. if you have an organization or you work somewhere and you hear from a newcomer that they are willing to work there or like doing an internship, try to reach up to your manager or to invite this person to the company and help them get that access, because it can definitely change a lot. Not only change their lives here, but also, as I said, when they get some the income, for example, it can be also shared with their families in Syria. So this change is really, really bigger than you would imagine.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I should also shout out Christina then again with the She Matters stuff.
Exactly.
I can't remember if it's called Flying Lotus or Lotus Flower. I don't know why.
Lotus Flower, I guess.
Is it Lotus Flower? Yeah. It's one of those two. It's a new partnership, that she has going with Nike, where, Nike's going to help, train people and get them back into the workforce. And I'm sure Christina would love to work with other companies. If you're listening to this, somewhere and you would like to, try to reach out and help well-qualified, hardworking refugees get back into the workforce. Look Christina Moreno up on LinkedIn. I'm sure she'd be happy to connect with anybody on that. Okay. And then, so people can look you up on LinkedIn as well. Kamar Alahmad Zina Bankasli, that your names will both be in the YouTube description and on all the streaming platforms. So if people want to connect with you on LinkedIn, reach out for English lessons or something like that. And then, last thing, if you guys want to support the podcast, the best way is just to subscribe on YouTube, or leave a comment on the video. The reason why I'm asking for subscribers now is if I get to 100, then I can have the custom URL, youtube.com/The Lucas Weaver Show.
Nice.
Right now, it's just some random string of characters that I always have to copy and paste. So if you haven't subscribe, help me get to 100, and then I'll stop asking. But all right. Well, thank you both. And
thank you.
Look forward to hearing more later on of how the journey goes. All right. That's it. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.